Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to another episode of the Weekend Crusaders. My name's Sean Wasserkrug, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Brian Michaels. We have 5 new movies to talk about that came out during the weekend of May 21st through May 23rd. This is actually a pretty fun list, wouldn't you say, Brian?
Yeah, this is a week I was looking forward to because it's like they're all movies that I was looking forward to watching. Most of them I was looking forward to enjoying, with one major exception.
This was basically like we're watching. So we're like, I'm actually excited to watch all 5 of these movies, and you're like, I don't want to watch the one. I was like, we're going to watch the one. And you're like, but I don't want to. And I'm like, but we are. I was like, you're gonna sit there and you're gonna like it. But
I'm not gonna lie.
but yeah, it's definitely a week of an assortment. I mean, I think we're hitting everywhere. We're hitting comic books, we're hitting comedies, we're hitting franchises. I mean, definitely hitting the franchise.
We're hitting that summer section where we're getting the bigger movies are coming in. Although we did manage to pick some smaller ones to sprinkle in too.
Exactly. And that's what I told you about. Like last week, I said with the summer, it's like you have your big franchises, and then there's those little ones that just show up, and you're like, okay, we got to talk about these because these were memorable at the time. But we're going to start off with the franchise one. Yes, I know we literally just talked about this franchise 2 weeks ago. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. But it's our feature. And this movie, I think I said it last week, is outside of the main one that I think everyone has dubbed the best of the franchise. Everyone's talking about this one being the second best of the franchise. And I've always kind of thought, I feel like this is overrated. Like, I don't feel like this is as good as everyone makes it out to be. So this was almost gonna be like a revisited for me. Like, kind of go back and rewatch this and see exactly what I thought of it. And that movie is the X-Men Days of Futures Past. Or Future. I always say Futures. X-Men Days of Future Past came out May 23rd, 2014. Had a budget of $200 million. Had a weekend opening of $90.8 million. It's number one its opening weekend. Its only week at number one. It had a finished box office of $746 million. 233.9 million domestic and 512 million international. I mean, I think pretty much, unless you're a troll, I mean, everyone has Logan as the number one X-Men film. I mean, for the most part. I mean, who's going to pick anything higher than Logan? Logan is fucking brilliant. But, I mean, most people have Future Past as the second best X-Men film. Now, me, I always had X2 as the best one, which, like I said, we talked about 2 weeks ago. Because I remember the first time watching this movie, maybe it was just because I had too much anticipation for Peter Dinklage being the villain in this movie, because obviously Game of Thrones, and his character's not necessarily really the villain in this movie, not by a long shot. He's not a villain at all in this. I just felt like his character was so sold at being much more bigger than what he was, that when the movie came out, I was like, well, that's kind of a disappointment. that I just didn't think the movie was that great. But I rewatched it, and I do have to take back my words. Yes, this is the second best X-Men film that has ever come out. I love X2. X2 is probably my second favorite X-Men film. But Days of Future Past has obviously a better cast. It's got a better story. It's got better character development. The only thing it's lacking that I think X2 does beautifully, especially way better than this one, is the action. X2 memorable with the Nightcrawler White House scene, the Wolverine berserker mode inside the mansion, Wolverine versus Lady Deathstrike. This one, there's not really a scene that's memorable in this outside of, like, to me, the Quicksilver scene, which is not really an action scene. It's just like a cinematic scene. But Brian, what are your thoughts on X-Men Days of Futures Past?
Well, the Days of Future Past storyline is actually the very first one I read when I got into the comics. I actually was buying some Empire Strikes Back comics, and they were packaged in within the X-Men comic, and it happened to be the first issue of this storyline. So this is kind of the story that drew me into X-Men in the first place, way back in like 1980 something. So I really love this story, and it's obviously kind of one of the major stories in the comics. When it came time to do this movie, however, I was of mixed feelings because, I enjoyed actually all 3 of the first X-Men movies, even 3 to a different extent. A lot of people had criticisms. We won't talk about that. That's not what we're here for. But then X-Men First Class, I thought was a giant step down. I really did not like X-Men.
You and I cannot be more up like opposite.
Again, I'm not going to get into that too much just here, except to say that what I liked about X-Men First Class was James McAvoy, Ian McKellen,
Fassbender,
and Rose Byrne. I thought their storyline was great. All the Z-list Young Mutants, that was crap. So in this movie, though, they're all gone.
For the most part, yeah.
Well, except for Jennifer Lawrence.
Well, no, oh fuck, what's his name? Cyclops' brother. He's still there. He's got like one scene.
Yeah, but he's basically.
He's just there to connect the story.
But we still get James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, but they're bringing back all of the modern day. I guess it's the 70s, but not the young X-Men. It's the Wolverine. You get to see Storm, Cyclops, all these people. Yeah. And they had a lot of new characters that we've been wanting to see, like Bishop, things like that. So I was very excited about this movie. And I was not disappointed, actually. This actually probably is my favorite X-Men movie. I mean, Logan is the better made movie, and I love Logan to death. But this one, I think something about it, I just enjoy it more because Logan's kind of a somber movie in a lot of ways. They're neck and neck for me as far as just enjoyment to watch. But I really like this one. I think that, there aren't any major action sequences, like you said, that jump out. But I mean, like kind of all the future war stuff with the Sentinels attacking. I think it's all very creatively done, especially with Blink and the teleporting and all that kind of stuff. I think that obviously the Quicksilver scene, which Quicksilver, first of all, coming into this, everyone was like, MCU's got their Quicksilver. It's going to be so much better than the Foxmen version of Quicksilver, But then Quicksilver in Age of Ultron, who was fine, but it was kind of a
underutilized
role. He was kind of doing his thing.
Yeah.
Supporting character. And this one, they're like, okay, look at the way he's dressed. It's going to be stupid. It's Fox, whatever. And he was probably the best part of the movie. That scene is the most memorable part of this movie, honestly. It was just so well done with the music and everything it did in the slow motion scene. So I really enjoyed that part. But yeah, like you, for the most part, I really enjoyed this movie a lot. And I was pleasantly surprised. Unfortunately, it didn't keep that going in the movies after this, but...
Yeah, no, it's like after this movie, it was just like they decided to take sleeping pills for the last two films because Apocalypse, I can't even remember Apocalypse because no one remembers Apocalypse. It's just that it was bad, and not even bad, it was just unmemorable. And then Dark Phoenix is Dark Phoenix, which I don't think it's the worst fucking film.
Even like Apocalypse, things about Apocalypse I like, but not enough to counter the things I didn't like in it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, clearly Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix compared to First Class and Days of Future Past are so widely separated. Like, what the hell happened that led to these movies to being like this and these ones to be like this? But yeah, no, I mean, I would say like what you're saying, Days of Future Past is the best X-Men storyline. Yeah. Yes, it is still effectively a Wolverine-led cast, which I think Hugh Jackman does a great job. I mean, I think in a pocket verse, the Wolverine, which I love the Wolverine, especially if you watch the unrated cut where you actually get to see him fucking murk people in that movie. Because that ends leading into this, and then this one ending. Like I also knew the other night, I was like, if they just went from this straight to Logan, that would have made this franchise just beautifully tied into a bow. But then we had Dark Phoenix and Apocalypse. It just kind of made everything kind of a dud because the way this movie ends, like perfectly leads into Xavier and Logan's relationship in Logan, like just beautifully. But I think Hugh Jackman really finds his stride as Wolverine in the Wolverine, and then into this his moments where he's having to actually be the not necessarily the reasonable one, but basically having to be the one that's got to pull everyone together. Like usually he's the rebel, he's the I'm gonna do shit my way, I don't care if y'all with me, and he's the one that has to actually get the band back together, have to get McAvoy's Xavier to kind of like make him the Xavier he's supposed to be. I thought was a awesome turn of events for the Wolverine character to force him to actually have to be this leader. And Nicholas Hoult, we talked about him last week with Mad Max. I think he does a great job as Beast. McAvoy and Fassbender, I mean, come on, they're McAvoy and Fassbender. They're always fantastic. And that one scene with McAvoy and Stewart, I didn't think we were going to get that scene, and that's a great scene. Yeah. Such a great scene.
It was very well done. Very well
done. It's incredibly well done. And I mean, like I said, there's so many great parts, like great acted scenes in this film. Just not a whole lot of action, but story development wise is great. Like the Sentinels are really cool, but you know, I'm of the cartoon mind where the Sentinels are like 3 stories tall.
Yeah, they didn't absorb mutant powers and things like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I almost wish they would have left the Sentinels alone and created something else, because like those are my Sentinels. Which in the White House scene they looked more closer to that, but they still not really. But no, I mean, just there was a lot of great moments in this film. Like I said, the cohesive story. This is probably the one X-Men film that literally felt cohesive and not going, well, that doesn't make sense, or that doesn't track with the past.
Which is ironic because the X-Men universe is so notorious for its lack of continuity. The Fox X-Men movies, all over the place with continuity and things that don't match up. Yet this is the one where things should be the most chaotic. It should like not match up, but the story is so well organized. They integrate everything so well in between the past and the future and how it affects it and different where characters are, that it all works out and it makes sense, which is just, it's ironic from what you would think. This would be the one movie, be the worst. It's the best.
Except for the last shot of the film. I tried to bring that to you. I was like, what's the point of this? You're like, I don't care. It's time travel. I get it. Timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, Doctor Who shit. But it's the last scene still makes no sense.
It's not even that it doesn't make sense, because you like I was talking to you, I was rationalizing it 10 different ways. You can, because there's time before the next movie takes place, but it just becomes, instead of just like, what's the point of it? Because
it's a tease for no reason. And
it's
the part
it's like the kind of thing you'd have, and then the next movie they'd be like, well, we decided not to pursue that, which is fine, except from the end credit sequence, they did know where they were going next. So
exactly, because I mean, in the part we're not talking about the apocalypse tease in mid credits. We're talking about we're talking about when Wolverine gets brought out of the water and it's Stryker who grabs him. We're like, oh, okay, well, he still gets put in Weapon X, but then you see that it's Mystique as Stryker, and it's like, well, wait. He still goes to Weapon X in the next movie.
So found Stryker, then how did he still end up as part of the program?
Exactly. So I was like, what the fuck was the point of that tease?
Like I said, you can reason that years in between, he's still, even after she rescued him, he's still with him. But then what's the point of having the Mystique reveal? It's just
exactly. It's just that's like the one part of the movie where I'm just like, that made no damn sense at all. But yeah, I mean, Blink was definitely the use of Blink was incredibly well done.
What Blink made me think? Blink made me think, how cool would it be to get a Portal movie? Just saying. You ever played the game?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You get a Portal movie with,
because you like make things and make like to get Colossus to like gain speed, attack somebody.
Okay. Sidestep real quick. Portal movie. Who is the voice of the robot?
Oh,
it's got to be someone good.
I think just have Phoebe Waller-Bridge do that character again.
I'm honestly, if you're going female with it, because yes, the voice is female. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is perfect. If it was a male, Keanu Reeves. Having him you do him like how like Always Be My Maybe Keanu, and you have him talking to you like that. That'd be perfect. That game is so dumb yet so awesome at the same time.
It's just one of those movies. The concept is dumb. It's a cool, fun puzzle game kind of thing. Anyway,
you said Portal, and my brain went here, and I had to do it.
Exactly what Blink's powers me. I think the way she was using them, but it really was a lot of that. A lot of characters who are barely in the movie or have very small supporting parts, from new characters like Blink and Bishop to even seeing returning people briefly like Shawn Ashmore or Halle Berry. These people, it's like I liked seeing how they brought all the different kind of generations together.
I mean, I still wish Halle Berry, Storm in general, would actually just finally get utilized in one of these films. Like Halle Berry clearly just shows up to collect a big ass paycheck, because I like I said, Halle Berry's good. This is not a dig on Halle Berry. Anyone can play Storm at this point because of the way they treat Storm in these movies. That is not knocking at Halle Berry. Halle Berry deserves more in these films, but at this point, like, anyone can play Storm and be like, oh, they just recasted Halle Berry as Storm, because she doesn't do anything in these films. X2, she probably gets the most ever to do in X2. But I was a little disappointed in Bishop. I feel like they should have, But to me, Bishop and Cable, which we got Cable in Deadpool 2.
Mm-hmm.
Deadpool 2. Bishop to me is a big character, and he just was like, he's like Colossus. He's just kind of
what
there.
happens, I think that with X-Men, when they made these movies, they focused on kind of the core. Well, there was the original X-Men, then there was kind of the all-new X-Men when they introduced Colossus, Wolverine, that kind of thing. And they kind of been focusing up to that point on all the characters from that point in the comics. Now, later in the comics, the characters like Bishop, Gambit, all these other people came in and became major characters. It kind of feels like they never got to that section. Like this might have had this universe continued, they might have gotten into Bishop that, because like in Days of Future Past, Bishop is actually the main character who goes back in time and
exactly, but they ended up doing Wolverine.
They retconned it. Well, not retconned it. They just changed it for this adaptation of it.
And that's one of those things
I would hope just a lot more of Bishop as well.
Yeah, I mean that's just one of those things where it's like I think they just felt that the fans, the people watching the movies, paying for movies, weren't going to pay to see a movie where Hugh Jackman is barely in the film, which I mean they did with at least 3 of these films already where he's like in a scene. But they were like, okay, we're not going to put everything on Bishop. A relatively who's the actor who played Bishop? Omar Sy. Which from Jurassic World, who I really like the guy, but you're not going to put him as the lead in this film. You're not going to give him, like, if you're going to do it, you're going to give to like an Idris Elba type, which he would have been a great Bishop, by the way.
Although Bishop, I think, is bigger than Idris Elba, but yeah.
He's Black Superman. Come on, man. He could be Bishop. He could be Bishop. But yeah, it's like I said, and Peter Dinklage's character, I thought, like I said, they built him up like, oh, he's gonna be, was it MODOK? Didn't they think he was gonna be MODOK for the longest time? I thought he was gonna be MODOK.
There was talk about that, I think, but instead you find out he's basically the same guy who's already been played in the X-Men universe by Bill Duke. So explain that to me. But
wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, stuff.
He got taller and got a really dark tan. So.
Exactly, but I mean, it's just one of those, like, his character. Like, once you stop trying to pretend that he was going to be this big thing, like I did the first time I saw the movie, you watch his character, like, his character's really important, and his character's a very solid character. Like, that one scene I actually really liked, where, and now granted, it's Mystique being him, but like that moment where, as him, she's, reading the files and stuff, and he comes back out and he's got the tear and, stuff like that. Like, I mean, Peter Dinklage could do no wrong for me. But I mean, it's like I wish we could have gotten more of him in this. But that's the whole thing. It's like through his character through the whole movie, he doesn't hate mutants. He's just trying to find order for the mutants. Like he finds them fascinating. He wants to, so it's not like a Stryker kind of character, which was a nice change of pace. I don't think they just used him enough. They could have made him a little bit better, a little more fleshed out. Now the big thing that I did that you didn't do this time is I watched the road cut.
I started to.
Yeah, you started to, but you didn't see any parts that was an actual road cut.
I started watching it, didn't even realize I picked the road cut, but I did. I like 10 minutes in, I went, oh yeah, I think I picked the road cut. So I watched half the movie, went to work or whatever they did. The next day, came back, went to go finish the movie. Didn't realize this time I didn't pick the road cut. So I watched the theatrical, which really the 99% of the differences come in that last half. So I didn't really watch the road cut. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's like the biggest difference that I noticed outside of the main scene for the road cut was that, like, when Wolverine wakes up back in the 70s, his berserker mode on the guys is more vicious than in the theatrical because it's unrated. And then, like, Nixon says fuck, which felt so forced at that point in the movie. And then, of course, like the 14-minute scene where they bring Rogue into it, which I get why they left her out, because seemingly you didn't need Anna Paquin in this movie to connect to keep the movie going. She's basically a filler for Kitty Pryde in the movie, which you didn't need. I'm happy to see Anna Paquin back, because I was fine with her Rogue. And you stated that you thought her Rogue was kind of meh, but yeah, but I mean, bringing her in was more or less because you're bringing everyone else back, which granted we didn't know that at the time, but she's Rogue, but once again messes with the time influx because didn't she take the fucking cure in Last Stand? So shouldn't she not have her mutant powers anymore?
There's all kinds of things about Last Stand. In the Last Stand, you saw that that people might have still have their powers.
Yeah. So
with the chess piece, I remember okay.
Exactly. So it's like one of the things where it's like, okay, well, she's supposed to not have her powers, but whatever. But I mean, it was nice seeing Paquin back. I mean, she was basically, brought in to lay on a table and then just sit there doing this to Wolverine the whole time. But I mean, the best thing about Days of Futures Past, which I know you're like, I don't necessarily agree with this, is that it completely retconned Last Stand, which to me was the best thing they could do.
I agree. While I enjoyed Last Stand a lot more than a lot of people, I'm not saying it's the best X-Men movie by far. I still enjoyed it. But the things that you're talking about, Cyclops isn't dead. Patrick Stewart.
It wasn't necessarily that Cyclops was dead. It was that they killed him off screen and like just did Cyclops super dirty. And that, like, it's fine if you want to kill Cyclops, just make his death meaningful.
Yeah, with that and how they left Patrick Stewart or Xavier and some other things, I agree with them changing those things.
Yeah, was I think
the things that you're like, why'd they end the movie like that?
I guarantee you in today's, well, not today's, but like 2 years ago, had like people been like, filming in the theater like they did with Endgame, when Days of Futures Past debuted and he wakes up and you start seeing all the original cast back and alive, I guarantee you that audience probably would have been losing their shit. The true X-Men fans seeing, Famke back as Jean and James Marsden back as Cyclops and Kelsey Grammer showing up to be Beast, just seeing everyone back. Wolverine fixed it. Everything's great, and I feel like that would have been a roaring, and it wouldn't be Endgame level, mind you, but I feel like had it been like in that time frame, you would probably see videos popping up of people cheering, seeing that kind of ending. But yeah, but then, they continued with Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix and New Mutants, and it puttered out to nothingness. Yeah. But they're getting they're retconning everything except for Deadpool. So we'll see exactly what happens when the MCU officially takes over the X-Men granted, they're probably already working on shit, but we're probably not going to see.
We're not going to see it's like 2025 or something.
Yeah, exactly. We're still like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 years away from seeing what they're going to do. But yeah, Futures Past, Disney Plus, right?
Disney Plus. If you don't have that, it's FX now. You can watch it on demand from FX.
Yeah. So if you guys have never seen the X-Men films, which I first off, you're lying if you've never seen an X-Men movie, because I think everyone has seen Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in some shape or form. But like I said, this movie, great cast work with McKellen, Stewart, Jackman, Fassbender, McAvoy. He doesn't care about Jennifer Lawrence. I actually think her character is actually really good in this film. And then Holt as well. Great performances for everyone in the film. It is easily the best X-Men film. Not my favorite, but definitely the best one. We're going to go to now. This is Revisited, right?
No, this is my pick.
I thought your pick was 1992's movie.
Oh, it is. Oh, you're right. You're right. It's Revisited. Sorry.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just double checking. Right. So we're going to our Revisited film now. This is a film. God, I've heard so many people talk about this movie, saying that it's one of the funniest movies. And I'm just like, I can't buy that that's a true statement. Like, I can't. Because I watched this sketch every time it was on TV, and it was funny for like the first 15 seconds. And then by the time the sketch ended, I was like, all right, let's wrap it up. But they made it into a movie, which I was like, I have no interest in seeing this film. And then everyone was like, oh my God, that movie is hilarious. So this was my first time watching this film, thanks to the show. Our Revisited film is a Saturday Night Live sketch film, 2010's Mcgruber. Or Mcgruber! Say it the right way, right? Yeah, it's like, you got to say it the right way or it doesn't work. Mcgruber came out May 21st, 2010, had a budget of $10 million, had a weekend opening of $4 million. Number 6, its opening weekend behind Shrek Forever After in its first week, Iron Man 2 in its third week, Robin Hood in its second week, Letters to Juliet in its second week, and Just Right in its second week. Had a finished box office of $9 million, $8.5 million domestic, and $797,000 international. Yeah, Mcgruber. Look, I love Will Forte. I think he's pretty funny. I still think his best sketch is when he plays the coach that dances. There's a look up SNL Will Forte coach, and he's always doing like a motivational like halftime speech, and he plays a juice box and some like corny like jingle thing, and he just starts doing like this dance thing, and like all the players are like, what the fuck is he? Okay. It's to me that's like the best Will Forte right there. But yeah, Mcgruber. I mean, clearly it's a knockoff of MacGyver, which I guess holds more weight now that the MacGyver show's ending because MacGyver wasn't back on when this came out. But yeah, to me the big selling point, I think it was the big selling point that you sold me on with this. It wasn't necessarily Will Forte or Kristen Wiig, which you guys all know I'm kind of on Wiig. Was that Val Kilmer is the villain and he's hilarious in the movie. So that was to me my big selling point. And you're right. Val Kilmer, or what his name in this movie is Dieter von Kumpf.
Let's go pound some Kumpf.
I love Val Kilmer in this movie, not because he's so over the top ridiculous. It's just like he delivers his lines so good. And like even when he starts to go kind of dumb at the end, like when he's handcuffed, he's like, "Oh man, come on!" I was like, I just loved Kilmer's delivery of everything in this film. Forte, to me, sometimes Forte just goes a little too far and he overstays his welcome. But and to me, that's what he does in this movie. But it's still fine. It's one of the better SNL films. I'll say that much. Plus, it's got a great cameo from WWE wrestlers, mainly Chris Jericho. His scene with Forte when they're like in the gym. Like I'm not gonna say the dialogue, but like that was probably the first part of the movie where I straight up just was busting out laughing because Jericho's like grin delivery of it was such like Predator with Arnold and oh my god, Arnold and Carl Weathers. Thank you. Like that's such a like a conversation that those two would have had. Like it's such a great little scene right there. I even told you that the beginning of this movie felt like Ace Ventura 2 When Nature Calls. Come on, tell me I'm lying.
You're lying.
Bullshit.
Ace Ventura sucked. McGruber's good.
Okay, Ace Ventura When Nature Calls mocks the cliffhanger scene, and then Ace Ventura quits his job and becomes a monk, and then they go find him because he's the only person that can complete this mission. McGruber, pretty much the same fucking thing. It is Ace Ventura When Nature Calls to that point, and then it becomes its own thing. I'm just saying the beginning.
I think it's been done a lot of movies before Ace Ventura, but
I don't know about that. But Brian, what are your thoughts on McGruber?
So McGruber, the sketch on Saturday Night Live, it's one of those things that it was a spoof of MacGyver, obviously, and it was funny the first time I saw it. But like Saturday Night Live does, they do the sketch, every 2 weeks, and then you're like, okay, we get it. You're basically doing the same sketch over
and multiple times an episode
and over again.
Yeah,
and she's like, okay, it's not that way. So when this kid was coming out, I'm like, really? I mean, of all the things you make a movie of, it's this. But I mean, I saw the trailer; it was funny, and I think what actually makes this movie is the fact that it's R-rated, because this movie
absolutely.
is able to do so much stuff that it obviously could not do in the TV show. But I laughed my ass off at this movie. I loved this movie. I thought it was so hilarious, and it's just Will Forte has a very it's a very odd kind of style of humor. Which have you ever seen Brother Solomon? A movie I would highly
love
recommend.
that movie.
Love
that movie.
Hilarious movie. Last Man on Earth. Some of you might have seen that. Kind of gives you a taste of his humor. It doesn't go.
I was fine for the first season. After the second season, I was kind of over it.
I got a little. I think I tuned out halfway through the second season.
Yeah,
but I mean that's kind of a little toned down version of him, just because it's a network TV show. But it's still kind of get an idea of kind of his odd brand of humor. But this movie goes 100% into it. I mean, obviously he had a lot to do with the writing of it. It's directed by Jorma Taccone, who's one of the Lonely Island guys, and he also directed Pop Star. But this movie, it's the humor in this movie I love, and it's just like I said, it embraces the R ratingness of it. Like you're talking about with Val Kilmer, and even with Will Forte, or even the other Saturday Night Live people like Maya Rudolph and Kristen Wiig. It's like you can be in a movie like this and kind of, you can tell sometimes actors are like slumming when they do actors like this. They kind of feel like, okay, I'm just here for a paycheck. But these people embrace it. I mean, everybody in this movie, especially Val Kilmer, just embraced it and went he went all in. And it just works out so funny. And without going into the specific scenes and jokes about it, I can't really talk too much about it.
I mean, we're allowed to. We can talk about specific jokes and stuff.
There's the celery scene, which I'm sorry.
My god, the celery scene.
And then the callback to it later on.
I will say this. I'll say this about the celery scene. The first time it happens, that was funny. I was just like, fuck's sake, this is ridiculous. And then when they teased it for later, I'm like, oh, if they do it later, it's just gonna be stupid. And you're right, it was stupid when they did it later. I didn't.
The best part of the celery scene was afterwards when he goes takes a bite off it, and he goes, "Oh, you watched it?" And he goes,
"No, I didn't." That was a great part. And Ryan Phillippe, I think was fun in this movie.
He was doing all of it, yeah.
Like you said, everyone just going for it. He was going for it. Like his back and forth between him and Will Forte was great, especially the one scene. And Powers Booth as well. Yeah. I thought Powers Booth was really kind of going into it. I mean, yes, there's the office scene. Come on, man. Oh, I'm not gonna say it, but come on, just tell me what's one thing in the room.
And then what got me, I know you think it went on too long, but I thought that's what made it funny, even funnier, was the sex scene. Which
it wasn't necessarily the sex scene.
Unsexy sex scenes you've ever seen in your life, with Kristen Wiig, and then in the cemetery where he has sex with his dead ghost of his ex-wife.
It wasn't necessarily that it went on too long. It was just I couldn't stand Will Forte's noise anymore. Just like oh my god, this is grating on the ears.
That was way too funny. But yeah, like you said, this is obviously, I think this is the Mcgruber, it was always in his head, but he's could not do this on TV. So he got to go to a movie and just be wild. And obviously it was not going to be for everyone's taste. And obviously it didn't do well at the box office because people that watched SNL probably were turned off by it.
Which is exactly why I didn't watch it.
It was his character. Yeah. So it didn't do well, but it found its market with people like me.
Yeah, I think it's more beloved now as a kind of a cult comedy because people, I think, after it came out, it's actually pretty funny. And then people started watching, you're right, it is funny. And it kind of just grew from there. I mean, it's never going to hit Wayne's World level, but it's one of those Ladies Man where it's if you actually watch Ladies Man, it's actually pretty good. And Mcgruber's kind of the same way. And heck, even when they actually went to the skit at the end of the movie, I was actually happy to see the skit at that point. And then when he finally opens, they're like, what? There's so many wires. No, I can't do this.
That's what I love about the character. And for years they've been talking about making a sequel to this.
I would welcome a sequel. I'd be happy to see a sequel.
For years they've been talking about because a lot of people, the people who like the movie would be clamoring for a sequel, and it's not going to be an expensive movie to make because it's not a big budget spectacle or anything like that. And then again, apparently he wrote a script, and then but I think last I heard, it's going to be a limited, one season thing for Netflix or Amazon or somebody, a 6-episode thing. So we are going to get it. It seems eventually. I don't know when, but
plus I will say it's also got probably one of the and I'm not saying this in a negative way. One of the most overkilled villain death scenes in a movie I've seen, and that's not a negative. That is he is slammed. He's dunking it on him, and then the finish of it, which I was like. All right, that's pretty funny.
Well, then there's through the whole movie what he says he's going to do to him, and at the end he can't. Yeah. He's like, what the
fuck? There's this build up, you're gonna want to. You want to know what I'm gonna say to him? We just have to wait to see. You just have to wait to see. And then the whole throat ripping thing, and where he's just he's like, you want to rip his throat, don't you? No, I know you don't like it. I know it grosses you out. Come on, do it. And then he's like, go.
See, you're laughing just talking about the way you love it.
There are great funny moments, but there's just certain times where it just just like with most comedies, it's usually the middle before you get to the third act.
Could have worn out its welcome, but for me, it's what's it, 90 minutes long even. I think that's perfect. If it tried to go to a 2-hour movie, it definitely would overstay its welcome. But it would have fell apart.
It would have fell apart if it went 2 hours. But no, it was good. I enjoyed it for what it was. I mean, it's not something I would go back and rewatch, over and over and over again. But it's something that's if it was, but that's your brand of humor. I have that brand of humor. It just depends on who's doing the humor for me. And Will Forte is one of those guys. I enjoy watching Will Forte the first time. He's not someone I really go back and rewatch multiple times because usually the second time it's more annoying to me. But I mean, like I said, the cast, I could stand Wiig in this because she's playing the straight woman for the most part in this film. She's not going outlandishly over the top.
Characters, yeah.
Exactly. And, Maya Rudolph, I'm okay with, she's only in the few scenes. Exactly. But like I said, Powers Booth, I love the Powers Booth went full on into this film, and like I said, Philippine and Val Kilmer, because I knew Forte was going to go to an 11 in this film. It was just whether, like you said, everyone else in the cast jumped right in to it as well, and I think that's what makes Mcgruber work. Have it been one of those movies where it was just him doing his thing and everyone else is kind of playing it straight? It wouldn't work, because it would just been too over the top wacky and a point where it didn't make sense. But yeah, Mcgruber is if you guys like SNL, these actors, or just the sketch in general, you guys have never checked out Mcgruber, it's definitely worth checking out, especially for its hard R. You definitely get a lot of Will Forte ass in this film. I literally just started remembering what he was saying during the sex scene, and I just had to stop. But anyway, Mcgruber, is it on anything?
It is not available for anywhere streaming right now, but you can rent it. And I would also recommend checking out Brother Solomon.
I was gonna say, check out Brother Solomon, because that is hilarious. Him and Will Arnett, who are basically two brothers. Yeah. Basically, they're two brothers who want to have a baby and raise a baby together. So they basically get a woman to basically get
their dad's dying wish is to have a grandson, so they need to have a son. They have a kid. Yeah. So she becomes a surrogate, and it's a whole big
it's a whole big thing. But it's funny. But yeah, check Mcgruber out if you guys are interested. You guys definitely enjoy it for the most part. Now we're going to the stinker, aka the one that Brian literally begged me not to watch, and I said no, we're watching it, so deal with it. This movie's gonna be different than most stinkers. I think. I don't think it falls into the line of a stinker film. I think it falls into a line of utterly disappointed, and to the point where it's hated and it's a stinker because of disappointment, not because it's a bad movie. It's a stinker film. It's not. It's just this movie lined up, and we're like, okay, we have to talk about this one, right? And you were like, I don't want to, but yeah, that is the movie. Yeah. And so. I mean, it effectively, for the most part, killed the franchise for the most part, but it's coming back. First off, I mean, the franchise was already done. It was done, and they decided to bring it back for this. So it's just like, why? And of course, if you guys know The Weeknd in general, you know what we're talking about. It is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of Crystal Skull. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of Crystal Skull came out May 23rd, 2008, had a budget of $185 million. Had a weekend opening of $100 million. Number one, its opening weekend. Its only week at number one. Had a finished box office of $790.65 million, $317.1 million domestic, $473.55 million international. Brian, you were one of the biggest Indiana Jones fans I know. You begged me not to bring this movie up. You begged me not to watch this movie, all the way up to us watching it. You were like, "Can we please pick something else?" And I said no. So I'm going to let you start, because this. Let's put it this way. This to you is like you making me have to watch Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom or Jurassic Park 3. So I'm letting you. It is so comparable. So I'm going to let you take the gloves off and unleash Brian on
Indiana Jones. Like, Raiders of the Lost Ark is essentially my favorite movie of all time, and I love all the original trilogy. Three pretty much perfect movies in my opinion. A lot of people don't like 2. I don't get it.
I love 2.
So yeah, they put this thing away for what, like 19 years or something, and we assumed it was over. There's always this talk about them making another movie, but it just never really happened. And then it was finally going to happen. And then of course the question is it too late? Is Harrison Ford too old? Do the directors still have it in him? Because like Spielberg had gone on to making a lot more serious movies. He hadn't made fun movies in quite a while, things like this. And then, but we had hope. It's still Indiana Jones, and maybe we'll still love it. And this was maybe the single most disappointing cinematic experience I've ever had in my life. Phantom Menace is up there, just in terms of expectations versus reality when you're watching it. But Phantom Menace at least still had some things about it. Ewan McGregor and Darth Maul, and you had some good lightsaber scenes and things like that. But this one, I mean, just in terms of what we were hoping for and what we got, this one was just such a disappointment. It's one of those movies that you kind of wish didn't get made at all, because it really just makes you sad. Harrison Ford he's still got Harrison Ford wit and things like that, but he's clearly lost some spring in his step. It looks like your grandpa trying to run along half the time. The look of the movie, first of all, that's what the movie didn't feel like Indiana Jones to me, like the old Indiana Jones movies. The cinematography is almost too clean. It doesn't have that kind of grit as the old movies do. There's a whole lot of CGI in this movie, especially because you start dealing with aliens and stuff, which I'll get to later. But that doesn't look like, it doesn't look like or feel like old Indiana Jones. The only things that really did still feel like Indiana Jones, like the old one we loved, was John Williams' score, because John Williams, let's be honest, he can do no wrong. Then there's the aliens. So George Lucas, for years, had been wanting to, incorporate, Area 51 and aliens and all these things, all these ideas in Indiana Jones. And Spielberg's like, yeah, it's not really Indiana Jones. And he was right. But after all these years, basically Spielberg gave in. If you saw interviews with him around the time this came out, or since then, he's basically said, yeah, this is George's movie. I just, was there as like, his director to get it made. So basically everything you hate about this movie, whether it be, Mutt or whether it be the aliens, all that kind of thing, these are all the nuking of the fridge. These were all George Lucas ideas. Spielberg basically just directed it. Where do you go from there? Shia LaBeouf. I like Shia LaBeouf, actually, especially back then. He did Transformers, things like that. Transformers movies are not great. They're fine. I enjoy them. Shia LaBeouf he plays the part in them fine. I like him here. I like other stuff he's done. I think he's a decent actor. But the character here they try to create, it's like they kind of wanted to walk that line of, oh, he might be becoming the new Indiana Jones, but he might not, because he's a whole different character. He's this greaser, but at the end the hat rolls to him, and it's like, first of all, nobody else can be Indiana Jones. If you want to make a Mutt movie, make a Mutt movie, but it's going to be dumb because the character doesn't really lend itself to that kind of thing. But so it's kind of a wasted opportunity to take a good actor who could have been a younger character in this movie, but I thought they wasted the character they made here. Then there, like I said, the whole aliens thing. Again, way too much CG. The whole multi-dimensional thing. Cate Blanchett they bring in, another great actress who comes in here and does this Natasha from Rocky and Bullwinkle. That Boris Natasha accent. It's like so over the top. It's like I think she thought she was in a different movie because she was doing a way more cartoony version than everybody else was. I'll take a break. You go ahead and put your thoughts on.
I was like, I'm just enjoying watching you actually be like I can tell you're trying to hold back from actually getting angry like I do. I'm also
trying to decide which things to bother talking about because I can sit here talking
I'm just enjoying watching Brian actually finally get a movie that she's like heartbroken over, like how I am with my movies.
And like you said, but before we start, I will just say, like you said, this is not like the other stinkers. This is not the worst movie ever made. This is a movie that it has some fun scenes in it for sure. And it's, competently made, which not really a big compliment for a Spielberg movie. But I mean, it's not. If Indiana Jones movies didn't exist and I went and saw this movie, I would probably have enjoyed it. I would not have loved it, but I would have at least enjoyed the movie. But because it does, and because we know what Indiana Jones is capable of, and we get this instead of what we could have gotten for a part 4, it's just this stinker is more a level of just giant disappointment.
Yeah, and that's the main problem when you come into a lot of franchise films. Like Phantom Menace, since you mentioned that. If we had not had Star Wars previously, I don't think we would have hated Phantom Menace. It's because of what we knew beforehand. Same thing with Indiana Jones and Crystal Skull. I don't hate this movie. I'm not. I really enjoy Indiana Jones. Like I said, to me, my favorite's Temple of Doom. I know that's probably sacrilege, but I really enjoy Temple of Doom. So right there, everyone's like, well, your opinion doesn't matter if you think Temple of Doom is the best one. I've watched Last Crusader the least. Doesn't mean that I don't like it. It's just the one I watched the least. Crystal Skull I have not seen since theaters because it was one of those things where it's like, man, they really missed the mark on this one. Like even I like Indy, but even I realized like, oh wow, this is not that good. But I don't hate it. Like you said, I like Shia LaBeouf in this film. He, just like the Transformers films, he is doing what he's supposed to be doing in the film. And he's doing it well. There's nothing in this film where I went, ooh, Shia really fucked that up. Or, oh, Shia could have done better there. No, Shia's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. He's being the perfect role player of this movie to Indy. And, I mean, even him doing the whole hair stuff, like, that's his character. That's nothing against Shia. Same thing with the Transformers movies. he's doing what Michael Bay's telling him to do. And he's doing it to the best of his abilities, and nothing in the Transformers films was ever Shia's fault. And I think Shia gets a bad rap for that because he had the Transformers movies, and then he went over into this, and then the hatred just grew for him. None of that is Shia's fault. And I think he does this performance solid. I think he does a great job as Mutt. In another movie, I think we probably would have praised it more. But because it's Indiana Jones, because he was just coming off of Transformers, everyone's just viciously attacking him. And yes, the monkey scene. Once again, that monkey, honestly, I remember that monkey scene being a whole lot worse the first time I saw it. Watching it the other day, I was like, all right, like this is bad, but it's not as bad as I remember it being. Same thing with the ants. Like I remember the ants being worse. It's almost like I built up how bad the alien parts are. Honestly, I forgot most of the alien stuff. Like I remember the end because I was telling you, I was like,
I wish I could forget most of the alien stuff.
Like I was just like, the aliens showed up this early? Like I don't even remember the end being the aliens, and you're like, oh no, dude, they're in like the whole fucking thing. I was like, I like blocked them out for like the whole beginning with the alien body. I didn't remember that. Like I blocked that shit out. That's probably why I didn't hate it as much as everyone else did. But yeah, Cate Blanchett, 2 weeks in a row now in a stinker film. Jesus. But yeah, she is, like you said, she is in a comical version of this film. Her Boris and Natasha voice and just kind of her antics in this film just don't match up. And then the thing is, like, she's doing the antics, but then her face is just bland. Like, it's just it's one of those things. Like, same thing I asked with Robin, who's like, is Cate Blanchett actually really a good actress, or are we just being fooled? Because now this is 2 movies back to back. We're like, man, she's just all over the place with this thing. And I think we said it too with I'm like Karen Allen, with as Miriam. It's like she can't stop grinning in this. We were like, I think she's just happy to be there. Like she's just happy to be in a film. She's happy that it's Indiana Jones because it doesn't matter what the scene is. She's just like, they're in danger, and she's still just like.
Apparently, somebody gave her a Xanax. She was.
Oh, dude, she is like at all times, like they're about to go down the waterfall, and she's just like, whee! It's like act. Come on, we know you can act. Yeah, we know you can act. Like this is that one point I was like, where did she go? She just disappeared. You're like, she's cruising through the jungle. It's fine, But and to me, the worst performance was John Hurt. And this is nothing against John Hurt. Like I said, with Shia Labeouf thing, he's playing the character he's supposed to be playing. John Hurt does it very well. It's just a character that for me had too many kooky lines, I guess would be the right term for it. It's nothing against him personally, but to me, he was like my least favorite part.
He did what the script told him to do.
Exactly. Like me getting mad at John Hurt is hypocritical because I'm defending Shia LaBeouf for what he's doing. John Hurt's doing what he's supposed to do. It's just every time he was talking, I'm just like, oh my God, come on. But I mean, that's the thing too, is like the action sequences. I will say this. I think if the movie had removed the nuke in the fridge, I think the movie wouldn't be as bad because I was telling you, it's like as soon as Shia shows up, the movie actually starts feeling like an Indiana Jones film. But it takes 30 minutes for Shia to show up, because once Shia shows up, they're starting to go into temples and tombs and all this kind of stuff, and it starts to feel like an Indiana Jones film. Like the first 30 minutes, you have them going to wherever, is it Area 51, where they have all the shit hidden, I think, and they're just in there for so long. You get the tease of the Ark and all that, which I thought that was like, I remember I was going to, I was like, aren't they looking for the Ark? And you're like, no. I was like, for some reason, I always thought they were looking for the Ark.
That shows up on the way out, yeah. Basically.
It's one of those things where it's like, I did not remember this film as much as I thought I did. But yeah, and then they tease the Ark at the very end of it. But it's like once, like, and we were making fun of the whole nuclear scene and how ridiculous it was and how Harrison Ford should have died. And then we also got into the whole sequence of like, why would you build a town with people and everything if you're just gonna?
They really do that though, but we're still like, why do they do that?
Yeah, it's like it's such a waste of money.
Running water, electricity. They got the TVs on. They got clothes hanging up. In the, like, I get you want to understand the effects of a nuclear blast on buildings and people, but
it's not like it's like such a waste of money.
All posed and like they're mowing the lawn and stuff.
Exactly, it's so dumb. But that was a side. That was literally a conversation I was having through that entire scene, was how ridiculously stupid this is. It's real life shit, but just how stupid.
That was one thing you could not blame George Lucas for. That was
no, he was going historical with that shit.
The script had a problem. My problem with the script is that it, again, half of it because it didn't even feel like Indiana Jones, because Indiana Jones is a character based on like the old serials, from way back in whatever the 20s, 30s, whenever they made those things. But the problem is there's like different serials. There's like the adventure ones, and there was like Flash Gordon who liked space. It's like if you took a character from this other one and put him in Flash Gordon's world, it's like that doesn't work. You can't take Indiana Jones and put him with aliens and flying saucers. It just has the wrong feel to it. And then as the movie goes, it just that even the action sequences and things, it felt like there were parts of this movie that felt like they were more something out of like a National Treasure or the Mummy movies, which are themselves knockoffs of Indiana Jones. So it was like you're copying the ones who kind of copy you. Not to say I don't like those movies, but it's just like it didn't feel like it was up to Indiana Jones level. So
that's what I was even telling you too with Harrison Ford. I was like they are really playing on him being old because he's super like slapsticky, like and falling over. It's like it's Indiana Jones, like there was at least 2 or 3 moments in the opening number where he did like he overjudged something, or he did this where it's like young Indy probably wouldn't have done that. And then you had the slapsticky snake scene, which I was like, that poor snake, poor fucking snake.
I mean, there's always been humor and funny things in the Indiana Jones movies, and even in his reactions and things that go wrong physically. But there were times in this one it seemed like they went over the top. Now, they did need to acknowledge the passage of time and the age, because this is, like I said, 19 years after the previous movie. So it's obviously he's a much older guy. That makes me worry even more about the next one, which in theory is getting made. I'll believe it when it's on the screen. I don't know if they should or not.
I feel like the only way they can make that one work is if he's playing like the Sean Connery like role.
Because it's already been 13 years now since this one again. So we're 19 years past Last Crusade, plus another 13 since this movie. Harrison Ford's, what is he, like 80 years old now? I don't even know.
I'll look it up. Keep talking.
But so do I want them to see him make another one? And Spielberg even said at one point, he basically said he wanted to make, not in these words, but he basically said, I want to make another Indiana Jones movie, so that one isn't the last one I made. He didn't want to go out on that. And Harrison Ford has kind of said the same thing. But then now Spielberg's not directing it anymore, and now it's James Mangold, though, who we know he can do something good with. Like,
and we love Mangold. We love Mangold.
Logan. Obviously he knows how to handle like an aging character in a franchise like this. So I'm curious to see what they do. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm not going to let myself be disappointed. Because of this movie, I'm not letting my hopes get up too high for the next movie.
Brian doesn't want to get hurt again.
Yes, not the abusive girl.
If they're on track with the way it looks, they said that the new one will come out next year. I doubt that. I don't even think they're even shooting this really yet.
No, I don't think it's coming out next year. I think at best it starts filming this year, and then it won't come out until 23 at least.
Which, if it comes out around July,
like Christmas of next year, maybe
he'll be 80 years old at that point. He turns 80 next year.
I'm watching my dad try to do this stuff.
Harrison Ford is 78 right now. He turns 79 in July. So he'll be 79 probably when they start shooting this thing. He'll be 80, 81 when this movie actually finally comes out, if it ever actually comes out. But yeah, it's just Crystal Skull. I mean, like you said, it didn't feel like an Indiana Jones film. Like I think I said at one point, I was like, there hasn't been a single booby trap in this whole film. I think the one booby trap was like when they were going down the stairs, and which I was more like a crank thing. That wasn't like an actual booby trap. And I was like, Indiana Jones is all about the booby trap. There's even one point where he's teasing up a booby trap with Shia, and nothing happens. Like there's one point where like Shia goes, he was like, "Whoa, don't go any further." And when they see the footsteps, and I'm like, "Oh, we're gonna get a booby trap." No, we're not. It's like you said, is it a stinker film? No, it's not a stinker film. Because like you said, have we taken the other Indiana Jones film out of
the average film that followed up?
Yeah.
The best films of all time are up there.
Yeah, it's just a disappointment, which is why we decided to talk about it. Because we know when we got to this week, it was like, we can't not talk about Crystal Skull. Crystal Skull, is it on anything? We'll move on so Brian can lick his wounds from having to watch this movie again.
It's on Paramount Plus. But I mean, everyone here has seen it, and they probably own them, and
Yeah, I mean, I own them. You own them. Even though you're like me, even though you hate the film, you still have it on Blu-ray. Just like I hate X-Men Origins Wolverine, but I still have it on Blu-ray because I'm a completionist. But yeah, so we're moving on now to Brian's pick. We're going from a movie that Brian loathes to a movie that Brian loves. This is a comedy from the early '90s. To me, introduced two actors that one of them has been on way too much on our show in the past month, and another one was so was such a '90s like cult comedy to me king, and then he just kind of faded away. And I still think about him from time to time. Go, man, we need another kind of one of his movies. We probably won't ever get him again, but we need. I think we need at least one more. We are talking about the 1992 comedy Encino Man. Encino Man came out May 22nd, 1992, had a budget of $7.5 million, had a weekend opening of $9.86 million. Number 4, its opening weekend behind Lethal Weapon 3 in its first week, Alien 3 in its first week, and Far and Away in its first week, and had a finished box office of $40.69 million. I want to see Pauly Shore. I love Pauly Shore. I mean, the Encino Man, Son-in-Law, Jury Duty, In the Army Now. I love Pauly Shore. And this to me wasn't this his first. This was his first one, wasn't it?
This was his first. Yeah, I think he had been in like cameos, like when he wasn't like a known actor. He was in background scenes of a couple movies before this.
I'm looking it up. Keep going. This is your movie, so.
But yeah, okay, so I'll go ahead and start talking about that. But yeah, this is a movie that came out. I mean, Pauly Shore kind of came to.
I forgot about Biodome.
Pauly Shore kind of came to fame as an MTV personality. Yeah, I don't know if he was technically a VJ, but I think he had his own show at one point. But he's definitely a very specific character, kind of that, not really a surfer dude, not really a stoner, because he really kind of has that thing to it. It wasn't really all about drug stuff, but he had this very personality. And this movie, he's playing himself. They're not trying to reinvent Pauly Shore in this or in the next one, Son-in-Law. Pauly Shore is playing himself because he knows what people want to see. Now, he was kind of the main marketing thing that they kind of sold us on because of that to the MTV audience, but he's really just the best friend character. He's not the main character of the movie. Sean Astin, who at the time, I mean, Sean Astin's weird because he'll show up in a big movie, kind of disappear for a decade, or not quite a decade, like several years, and then reappear in something big and disappear. Like he was in Goonies, of course, kind of disappeared for a while. I mean, he did other projects, but nothing big. Disappeared for a while, comes back in this, and I think
there's one movie in between Goonies and this that I was like, this is where I first knew him from, which was Toy Soldiers.
Toy Soldiers, yeah.
Yeah.
But then he did this, kind of disappeared for a while again. Obviously came back to notoriety in the Lord of the Rings movies.
No, Rudy. You forgot about Rudy.
Rudy.
Yeah.
Then Rudy was only a year after this, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like, this is 92. I think Rudy was like 93.
Yeah, so he comes back for like a year or two, disappears for several years, comes back to like Lord of the Rings, disappears for a while. And no, I'm not going to talk about 51st Dates because Adam Sandler movie sucked.
He's funny in 51st Dates, though.
John Astin's here. He's basically playing the straight man, although he has plenty of funny scenes, but he's basically the straight man in this movie. But the star of this movie, obviously, is someone we've never talked about on the show before. His name is Brendan Fraser.
Fraser? It's French, I think.
It is not Brandon. It is not Fraser. It is Brendan Fraser.
Never heard of him. Never heard of him.
Yeah, we've talked about him a couple times on this show.
To obnoxious levels. I never thought we'd start Weekend Crusaders that Brendan Fraser is going to be the most talked about actor on our show.
So was it Blast in the Past?
Blast in the Past, Mummy, Fury Vengeance.
Yeah.
What?
We did a Mummy movie, right?
Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Fury Vengeance, and now this. Yeah.
So this is the movie where most people, I mean, I don't know if it's first movie, you can research that. This is the movie where most people had really.
He had some school movie.
School Ties? Was that before this?
I think it was school. I think so. I'm looking it up.
Okay. But this is the movie where most people first saw Brendan Fraser. And he does a great job.
Same year.
I mean, he has to play a convincing caveman, but he has to be like, it's a teen movie. He's got to be kind of entertaining, modern teen, things like that. And I think he walks that line perfectly. I think he plays the part so perfectly where he's dumb, yet he conveys emotion. There's parts where you like feel bad for him. You know, you feel
Oh,
sad when his
the
friends are like
museum scene. The museum scene
damn
was
scene, or
yeah.
even like the one scene where Sean Astin's character, I forget the name, is gonna like dump him off in the road and make him go away because he was like, you know, getting his girl or something like that. And
Dave.
he's like, why is Dave. No, Dave. Where he's like, you know, his friend is basically rejecting him and sending him away, one of the only people he knows in this world. And so, I mean, there's some moments where actually, you know, he conveys some real good emotion there. But at the same time, he's just so funny. I mean, everything from the convenience store scene to even like at the hockey rink in the fight, and of course there's the whole makeover, you know, a typical makeover scene, but it's like cleaning up the caveman,
and the typical once again prom movie dance sequence number that everyone knows the dance moves to.
So, yeah. So, but this is a movie where I did not realize until I watched it again, because it's been a while, how much I quote this movie in my day-to-day life. And it's not even the kind of movie you think about as like a quotable movie. Like there's certain movies you think about like, oh, that movie's full of quotes. This one is just one where like somehow my friend and I, because we watched this together originally in the years since then, have just incorporated so many lines this just into our daily vocabulary. And it's just I love this movie unashamedly. Yeah, Pauly Shore's not for everybody, but I find him funny. In this and Son-in-Law, pretty much after Son-in-Law, his movies started going downhill pretty fast.
Like I said, I love Jury Duty, In the Army Now, and Biodome.
And then he has tried to come back in recent years. There was one like last year, I think it was called like Guest House or something like that, which I never even finished. I watched the first half hour. I'm like, yeah, that's enough.
Wasn't there a movie like Pauly Shore's Dead?
There's a documentary, well, a mockumentary called Pauly Shore is Dead, which was mildly amusing. It's basically him trying to get back in the public eye, but yeah, it was what it was. But I enjoy this movie immensely. I think it was fun. It was a great teen comedy. I loved it when I first saw it, and I've loved it in the years since then. Sean, you were saying for the first. Have you seen this before?
No. I've seen it many times. It was one of those. It was like in terms of the Pauly Shore verse. This is the one that I always forget about. Like, oh yeah, Pauly Shore and Brendan Fraser. And you're right. Pauly Shore, by today's standards, he's looked at as a stoner. His name's Stoney in this movie, but he's not a stoner. There's one point I think he gets offered drugs. He's like,
yeah, there's no drugs in the movie.
He's like, no, I'm good. Pauly Shore is the nicest motherfucker in this film. He's so nice. Like, there's so many times where it's like, how many times where it's like, not cool, man. That wasn't cool.
The bully, or even the girls, who, by the way, at the time I had the biggest crush on Megan Ward.
Let's not forget the like, was it the 2 cameo scene for Rose McGowan? Like, she pops up like, is that fucking Rose McGowan?
Okay, well, there's cameo. She just was a bit player because she wasn't known at the time. But yeah.
Well, no, yeah, exactly. She was a nobody, but it was enough for me to go, is she in this more? No.
Yeah, but speaking of cameos, it's not really cameo. I did enjoy seeing the Goonies Reunion because Jonathan Kwan, who was previously known as Ke Huy Quan, who played Data in the Goonies, is in this movie as well, along with Mikey. So
this is once again not a cameo, but I'm not gonna be able to find his name because I'm not gonna waste my time. But when they're in the convenience store, one of the convenience store guys is the Indian guy from 40-Year-Old Virgin. And I was like, yes, I love that guy. Fuck a goat, man.
And isn't the other one the guy from The Mummy?
Yeah, from The Mummy, yeah.
And also Independence Day.
Yeah, what's her name? Rachel Weisz is like boss.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I love Pauly Shore in this movie. He's just such a generally nice guy. He's like no one bullies him. They bully Sean Astin's Dave. Like Pauly Shore's like, it's almost like, don't mess with the kid. He's a good kid. Like, leave him alone. Like, he's just doing his own thing. Like, everyone's also doing stuff, and Pauly Shore's just kind of out there. Woo-doo-woo, I'm a weasel. kind of thing. You know, it's like, even when they go into the bar.
For 2 days after I watched this movie, I was talking like that. My wife was ready to stab me in the head.
I mean, there's literally one point where he's in it like what looked like a hardcore like Mexican gang bar, and even they're just like buddy with, because he's just like,
you're the worm, I say.
I'm not the worm, I'm the weasel. It's just like, but it's like he's such a likable character, which makes me wonder, why Son-in-Law and all that shit works, because he's an eccentric character, and it's like just like with son-in-law, like, oh, you look at him, you're like, oh god, get this guy the fuck away from me, and then you like let him in, you're like, oh wow, he's actually super fucking cool. I think this helps son-in-law make it even better. Plus you have, Carla Gugino in that movie, which is like, oh, yes. But yeah, Robin Tunney in this movie, I was happy to see. Sorry about that, guys. Once again, internet connection issues. It's about ready to storm here. That's the only excuse I have for why my internet just crapped out on me mid-sentence. But I don't know if I'm leaving it in or not, but apparently Brian was talking mad shit the entire time I was connected to my internet, and it recorded. So if it's good, I'll leave it in. If it's rambling nonsense, I'll just leave it out. And you're probably wondering why the hell are we talking about this? I was talking about something, and I cannot remember what it was now because time surpassed and my brain forgot. I know it was supposed to be funny, but I can't remember what the hell it was. But no, Brendan Fraser,
hilarious.
Well, yeah, but what I was I think this is not what I was going to say, but I wanted to say this. I remember when we were talking about Furry Vengeance, we're like, when did Brendan Fraser become so physical comedy? And it's like Encino Man. So that's all he is physical comedy.
No, in Encino Man, for the most part, it wasn't slapsticky funny. It wasn't things happening to him.
No.
It was things he was doing.
Exactly, and it was one of those things where, it's all about he's a caveman. He's reacting to everything, coming up, finding cool things to say, and stuff like that, and then just kind of being Brendan Fraser as with no limits. And then Aston's obviously playing the wet blanket, and then especially at the end where he tries to Harry and the Hendersons his ass, by trying to get him to go away, kind of thing. But like I said, Fraser does a great job of emoting emotion. Like I said, the museum scene where he sees the caveman and he has like a mental breakdown, and then like you said, the scene in the street when Stoney and Dave are fighting, and he brings them in. It's like family kind of thing. Like Brendan Fraser doing that without having really to speak much dialogue shows what he was as an actor then. Once again, what the fuck happened to you, Brendan Fraser? Granted, I keep saying that he's on Doom Patrol and he's fucking amazing in Doom Patrol, but no, not enough people watch Doom Patrol. Plus, he's barely on screen. He's in a giant robot suit the entire film.
He's probably just doing the voice.
He's doing the voice. Yeah, he's doing the voice. They occasionally do flashback scenes where you see Fraser, but still, it's. Yeah, so I mean, with his words, he does great. But yeah, and then shout out to was the bully? God, what was it? Yeah, Michael DeLuise. I thought he was a solid like high school asshole like bully kid, in the movie. Like when he staples Sean Astin to the wall. He's like, why do you make me do this to you?
Whatever happened to the DeLuise clan? I don't know.
Exactly. It was like I remember seeing him going, I haven't seen this guy in forever.
Is Dom DeLuise still alive? I don't even know.
I have no idea.
And then there's Peter, who was on 21 Jump Street. And there's Michael.
I honestly have no idea. All I just remember is I couldn't remember the last thing I had seen this guy in prior to this movie. And I mean, I'm even looking it up. I think he's in The Circle, but I have not seen The Circle. But I'm not gonna waste too much time trying to look it up. But yeah, no, I was like, Encino Man, it's fun. I do think that the Dave's family is completely inconsequential to the film.
But I think that they didn't. It wasn't like they wasted time on them. They were just there in the background. It
was almost like the bratty little sister. There was no point to having the bratty little sister, and then like the mom and the dad are like, "Oh, it's okay. He can live here." It's like that's not how that shit works. But that's a '90s film kind of thing. And also there's
like, also okay, cool.
Also, the ending, like, she wouldn't have unfrozen that quickly for the female cave woman. It's like she got out of the ice block all on her own. I was like, how did that work?
And she was already cleaning herself up in the tub.
Exactly. Like she knew what to do.
I forgot Michael DeLuise was one of the guys in Wayne's World.
He's the sound check guy.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, was it Alan?
I don't remember the name.
I don't know why I know. I'm pretty sure it's Alan. If it is, I don't know why I know that. Yep, Alan. I don't know why I know that his name was Alan in that movie. He's the I Love You Man guy. But anyway, Encino Man. It's one of Brian's favorites. It's one of those I enjoy it. It's a great '92 comedy. Like I said, with Pauly Shore. Like I said, Sean Astin's not necessarily memorable in the film. It's basically a Pauly Shore Brendan Fraser film. So if you guys are a fan of those two actors and you have not seen Encino Man, or it's been a very long time since you've seen Encino Man like myself, definitely check it out. Is it on anything?
It is not on anything for free. You'd have to rent it. I will say this as well. It's only PG. It's a very my kids watch it and enjoy it. I mean, there's a couple swear words in the movie, but not hardcore. And it's actually a fun movie. That,
Today's
the whole family
standards.
can watch.
By today's standards, not really. In terms of
The whole family can watch it. It's only PG. So check it.
So going to our final movie, it is my pick, and this is a movie that I am going to probably die on this hill, and Brian's probably halfway up the hill going, I'm there for you, buddy, kind of thing. This is another movie from a franchise that gets criticized way too much. Doesn't deserve the criticism that it gets. The entire franchise itself gets criticized way too much. This movie in particular gets criticized way too much, and I am here to defend it. And that is the 2009 sci-fi film Terminator Salvation. Terminator Salvation came out May 22nd, 2009, had a budget of $200 million, had a weekend opening of $42.55 million. Number two, its opening weekend behind Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian in its first week, had a finished box office of $371.35 million, $125 million domestic, and $246 million international. Now, granted, the Terminator franchise has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I mean, obviously, everyone loves the first two films. I think you said you like Rise of the Machines.
I rewatched it this past week.
It's not good, man.
Yeah, Rise of there are things about it I like, mostly being the ending, because it had the balls.
Because they went for it. Yeah, they
basically said, look, they didn't stop anything. This is coming. This is happening. Judgment Day is here.
Which to me is the best part of that movie.
Which that's why I was so optimistic about this movie, because this movie, unlike
hold on. Let's not. We're not going to this movie yet. We're not going to this movie just yet.
Okay.
Then we got Genesis, which
Genesis is the best thing to ever happen to Salvation, because it made people like this more.
Exactly. And then you got Dark Fate, which you and I have both gone on record, almost 10,000 views for that review. Still don't understand why that review's got almost 10,000 views. That we both like Dark Fate. Salvation, I think most people remember Salvation for the Christian Bale behind the scenes, blowout, which sucks because this movie deserves more recognition. People were like, Salvation was horrible. Why was it horrible? Because it decided to actually fucking do something different with Terminator. It didn't go back in time. It didn't have Sarah Connor in it. No, it was present, future day, whatever you want to call it, present day Terminator shit. Grown-up John Connor in the apocalyptic world. We get his introduction to Kyle Reese. We see his first introduction to the humanoid, basically, Terminators. And we get an awesome introduction to the T-8000, which eventually leads to the first film. What more did you want for this movie? It was doing what it needed to do to be different. It was trying to be something that wasn't the first three films. And y'all shit on this film. This movie does not deserve all the hate it got. Christian Bale does a great John Connor. Anton Yelchin, rest in peace. We love this guy. A solid Kyle Reese. Say what you will about Sam Worthington. I think he's solid as Marcus Wright. Moon Bloodgood, I love her. She can do no wrong. Bryce Dallas Howard, they should have given her a little more to do in the movie. Helen Bonham Carter, I think does great in the little two scenes that she's got. I think the action is solid because we get some great futuristic action. We actually get to see the hunter killers and full on action in this film. We get like a fucking mech warrior Terminator. We get motorcycle Terminators. We get multiple different kinds of Terminators in this film. I think this movie deserves a hell of a lot more credit than it rightfully deserves. And I could keep going, but Brian, what are your thoughts on Terminator Salvation?
So yeah, I was talking about how at the end of Terminator 3, how they, Judgment Day came. So I was, if nothing else about that movie, it was very hit and miss, but it led into this movie where I think I said in my original review, this is not Terminator 4. This is Future War #1. This was it was actually supposed to be a trilogy movie.
It's technically Terminator 1 because it leads to the events of the first Terminator.
Yeah, I just meant in that this isn't going to be about the Terminator. It's not going to be really about the time travel and things like that. This is going to be just what's happening currently in this future war. And I was very excited to see that, because we'd seen them try to rehash all the time travel things before. So this would be something different. And we got that. We got the future war. We got all the cool weapons and the cool different kinds of Terminators, the 100 killers, all that kind of thing. As far as the casting, I've never been a huge fan of Christian Bale. I think he's a fine actor. I don't think he's a great actor. And especially whenever he tries to do something like this, or even with Batman, where he felt the necessary to do that gruff action voice that he uses anytime he wants to,
I think that's to hide his accent.
I think it's to hide his accent.
Same thing with like Reign of Fire.
Really
but Reign of Fire, I don't think he had to hide his accent in Reign of Fire.
No, he didn't. He was still British in that one because it was in London.
I think it's more how he does it to hide the accent.
Yeah, but so his gruff accent and even his acting is sometimes a little over the top, but he was fine in it. Bryce Dallas Howard, like you said, I like her, but she's barely in this movie, and she's basically stands there and is pregnant.
Yeah, she's needed more to do.
Anton Yelchin, love him. I thought he did a great job in this movie. Sam Worthington, I will agree. I think Sam Worthington did a serviceable job in this movie because he's like I've talked about this before. He's one of those actors where they just at some point somehow became like the it guy. They tried to shove it down everybody's throat with Avatar and Clash of the Titans and this. Like, hey, he's the new star of all these movies.
He's the new Gerard Butler, basically.
But he was fine in this movie. I thought he played this character well. And I liked that his character was something different. It wasn't another Terminator. He was essentially a kind of Terminator.
He's basically what what's her name is in Dark Fate.
Kind of. Well, whereas he's almost full on cyborg. He's basically a Terminator who has a beating heart and still kind of has a human brain in there, so he still thinks he's human, as opposed to just being a human.
And then he's got that chip that basically he's got the clone trooper chip for Order 66. It just wasn't turned on.
But again, I like that they were going somewhere new with it. They weren't just rehashing the same old story. Is the movie perfect? No. I mean, there's things about it that that I don't love, but for the most part, I really enjoy this movie, and I think it, like you said, it gets unfairly shit on. I was saying earlier, I think Genesis is the best thing that ever happened to this movie because Genesis is worse, and so it makes this one look better by comparison.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of like it's like that meme where the guy's got the one chick and he looks back at the other chick. It's like the one chick he's got is Genesis, and he looks back at like Salvation, like, yeah, that actually isn't as bad as I thought it was. Exactly, it's not. I mean, it. I'm not saying that it took risks, but it just did so much stuff that we wanted to see. But for some reason, it was just like everyone was just like, "That's not the movie I wanted." It's like, what did you want? I mean, Arnold couldn't. I mean, yes, Arnold did show up in other Terminator films, but Arnold didn't want to do the movie, so they basically did the CGI Arnold, which I think was fine. I mean, plus they burned off the body like within 2 minutes, so it wasn't too uncanny valley. But I mean, you have the Skynet once again outsmarting the humans with the whole, which I thought that was a brilliant touch in the film with the whole like sound wave thing. And it was all just a whole big ruse. It proves that the machines weren't stupid. That the machines were planning this the entire fucking time. And even the whole thing with Marcus at the end of the movie is like, you think he's getting control, and it's like, no, he's been doing exactly what they've wanted the entire time. He just didn't know. Like, his whole point was to get Connor there unknowingly, and he did that. It's one of the things. Just like, I don't understand. Like, people like, it's like, oh, it was directed by McG, so naturally it sucks. It's like, no, like, it's got a clever story there. It's just you want to judge it so harshly.
Because really, I like you. I like some of the things they did, like with the writing, because like they had the thing where basically the machines were in charge all along.
Yeah,
it was Agatha all along. It was the machines all along because they wanted him to get Connor to them, and they manipulated him to think that. I love the reveal of finding out what Marcus is because he's walking through that minefield, and of course the magnetic mine hits him and blows him up. And then he's just hanging there, and then they just like unhook his, so he can look down and you see his body. And
which once again they gave away in the trailer. They should have never given that away in the trailer.
Yes, he totally gave everything away in the trailer, but still within the movie, I liked how that reveal was done.
Because we had grown to become attached to Marcus at this point. You know, I mean, he saves Kyle. He saves Moon Bloodgood. I'm blanking on her name, Blair, from getting like raped. We see him at the beginning of the movie. He's like a killer who's going on death row. But then he wakes up. He's actually being a general good guy. And then we get to reveal that, oh shit, he's a Terminator. But he doesn't know he is. He doesn't want to be. It's a good story development, and like I said, and Sam does a solid job portraying that. And also the snake Terminators. Forgot about the snake Terminators. Once again, like I said, in terms of when I worked at Best Buy, what's that?
They're called Hyderbots.
Yes. In terms of working at Best Buy, that was another scene that I used for my surround sound demos. Was the helicopter water scene, because that had a great 360-degree sound demo with them in the water. It sounded like they came at you from different directions. So I've seen that scene like 1,000 times. But I think this movie, and then also at the end when he gives his heart to John to show that, so John can live, I think also in turn makes it why he's so okay to sending back Arnold and T2, because he can see that machines can be helpful. Like I said, that's a little thing. It's like people probably aren't looking at that. It's like a machine helping John survive is the reason why John probably sent back Arnold in Terminator 2. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where it connects the dots, I think, so well. But everyone just remembers that, is that the movie where Bill went nuts on a guy on stage? It's like, but yeah, Terminator Salvation, I think to me, I personally like it better than T1. But that's just because T1's very 80s. And so to me, it's like T1, you got like 3 great moments, and then it's just kind of like Kyle and Linda Hamilton just talking the whole time. But like T2 is obviously top tier, and then I like Salvation to me is like right there. And then you got T1 and then Dark Fate. But I don't think this movie deserves the hate that it gets. I think it deserves more fucking respect for what it did. That, and then you got the Sarah Connor Chronicles, which was awesome. Sarah Connor Chronicles was great. That also deserves. That's got the respect. That's got the cult love respect of it. But yeah, Terminator Salvation. I think it's on HBO Max, right?
It's on HBO Max right now. Yes.
Anything else you want to add?
No, we covered it all.
All right. Well, that is our episode today. Some bumps in the road once again with the internet. Hate it. But we made it through. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, yes, I know Spiral came out, but the reviews are so shitty that I'm just going to choose not to watch it. Brian, did you actually watch Spiral or no?
Yeah.
And that face says it all.
If you really want to know, go to my Letterboxd. You can read my review, but no.
Yeah, I had a feeling it wasn't going to be good. Even with Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson behind it, I was just like, this is probably not going to be good. And then was it not I Wish You Were Dead? What the hell is – I can never remember that damn – what?
Those Who Wish Me Dead.
Those Who Wish Me Dead. I have not checked that out yet. Brian says it's solid for what it is. And then, this Friday, we got Army of the Dead coming out on Netflix. It was in theaters already. Brian was not a fan of the film. I will have a review for that coming out this weekend once I actually get to watch it. And, of course, we've got Quiet Place Part 2 coming out next week. Cannot wait to see that film. Cannot wait to go back and rewatch the first one again before the sequel comes out.
I haven't watched that one since it's been years at this point.
Yeah, it's been at least 2-3 years since I've watched the first one. But next week we've got 5 more movies coming out. I'm happy for some of these movies, and I'm not happy for others.
And he's not just talking about the stinker.
I'm not talking about the stinker either. Brian, we were going so well. We had a nice streak going where your picks were actually movies I enjoyed and liked. And then you decided to basically get payback for me making you watch Crystal Skull. And now I have to watch a movie that's your pick that I downright despise.
But maybe you'll watch it this time and be like, you know what? It is funny. I was just in a bad mood.
You know what? I would love to hope that is a thing that will happen. But I remember just actively being angry watching this movie in the theater. I would love to watch this and go, you know what? It's not that bad.
I will tell you this. When I first saw it in the theater, I was disappointed by it. I didn't think it was that funny. But then I watched it again, and I've grown to love it.
So you're telling me that I'm going to Tropic Thunder this thing, where I'm gonna hate it the first time I see it, and then watch it like late, months later, and then love it.
I don't know if you love it. I think you might enjoy it more, though.
Well, we got that movie. We have a stinker that with the two leads probably shouldn't have been a stinker. But honestly, this movie
Have you seen this one?
I think I've seen parts of it. I don't think I've seen the whole thing all the way through. This movie is remembered for not the reasons it should be remembered for. We'll touch on that next week when we talk about this film. We've got, to me, a 90s action like cult classic, in my opinion. I love this 90s film, and we brought it up on this video. So watch back this episode and hear for it, because I definitely brought it up in the show. We've got a Pixar classic that I'm going to talk about, and then to me, one of the better remakes out there. I love this film. I'm mad at myself that I haven't watched this one in such a long time, because I loved the hell out of this film.
Better than the original. I'll just say.
Oh yeah, I cannot wait to rewatch this. I might watch it. I might watch it tonight. Like, I'm that excited. I might watch this one tonight because I love this film. But those are our 5 movies, so we will see you next week with those. And until next time, I'm Sean Wasserkrug. That's Brian Michaels. We are the Weekend Crusaders. Until next time, in case we don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. And before we go, a sweet sorrow, send your love and all this stuff to Brian, because Brad Pitt broke up with him last week. So the love was summer lovin', and it didn't last the whole summer. That's why there's no pictures behind him, because Brad Pitt, he couldn't quit him last week, but he dumped his ass the next week.
And here I thought you were going to give like a respects to Charles Grodin, and no, you went that way instead.
No, because I knew you would do that anyway. Respect to Charles Grodin, even though technically this is going to be airing on Friday. He did pass away today. We were talking about him today. We were fond of him and like Taking Care of Business, Beethoven, the movies we were saying. I'm blanking on them off the top of the head.
Heart and
Souls. Was it Heartbreak? Tons of them. Anyway. But I already said the end sign. So cue Ferris Bueller. We're out. Later, guys.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.